Hey, hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all doing really well out there on this Friday night. Yes, it is here again, the crescendo of this week, and of course, the day that we call the gateway into the weekend. Yeah. And I'm back here on a Friday night to talk about music, as usual. And today's topic is around techno records, more specifically from 1992 to 1993. It's such a big part of my life during this time. I was starting DJing and I was playing some gig with my own music. And I think around 92, that was the time where I seriously started picking up a lot of techno records, trance records, acid techno, call it what you want, electronic dance music for real. And a lot of those records are still with me, all packed down in crates. It's not that often today that I open those crates and play those records, unfortunately. But that all changed earlier this week when I opened up these crates and started going through them, and this idea came to my head. I haven't talked much about such a huge part of my life, which was discovering house and techno and all of that. So this is a time. And I wanted to pick out a number of records to talk about, and the ones that I first picked, all they were all released in 1992 and 1993, and it was just pure fluke really that it became 92 and 93. But there was so much great music being released on so many different independent labels from all over the world. And initially I had around 50 records that I wanted to talk about, but I was like, hey, you do long videos normally, 50 records, that would be absolutely bonkers to do a video about that. So I narrowed it down to 5 records, and these are just some of my favorites. Like I said, I could have presented 50 records here, but we can do more installations like this in the future if you would like to. Just give me a shout down in the comments if you really like this kind of content, really. But to me, I'm very passionate about techno still today, so I want to talk about this. So now, without any further ado, I will present to you 5 records from the years 1992 to 1993 that I hold very close to my heart still today. First one from the giant label in Germany, Harthouse Records, and they were releasing so much music during the whole of the 1990s, really. A lot of trance, a lot of techno, a lot of experimental stuff as well. You never really knew what you were getting with a Harthouse record, and that was part of the thrill of picking up a Harthouse records. Well, in some aspects, if you picked up a certain artists, you knew what you were getting, but they weren't really focusing on just one subgenre of dance music. There were all kinds of music. So one I'm holding in my hand, this is usually what a hard house cover would look like, a generic company cover, very nicely designed here with a glossy hard house logo here, and on the back you had some contact information, telephone number and fax. So yeah, you could contact them if you wanted to. And all the labels had their iconic logo there, with that, it always looked like a spaceman to me. I love that logo. It's really, really nice. And on the back here, we had all the information for the record in question. And the record in question here is Barbarella. The band Barbarella, well, they took their name from the movie by the same name, starring Jane Fonda. Absolutely fantastic sci-fi romp from the late 60s. And yeah, these tracks include a lot of references to that movie, a lot of samples and things like that. Barbarella was Sven Fät and Ralph, and whose surname I've never been able to get right. So I'll put it here for you to read out, because I won't butcher it. That's just the case. Yeah, so Barbarella, and I think this is the first 12-inch single they released under that name. It's just called Barbarella. And on one side we have the Secret Chamber of Dreams. On the flip side, we got the Future and Barbarella 2000. And this is good way to showcase what Hard House was all about, because the first track is nearly 15 minutes long. It's a trance, a very atmospheric track that lends a lot from the movie Barbarella. And then the flip side with the Future and Barbarella 2000, we are on the harder edge of things. We can call it techno, hard-hitting techno. So there was something for everyone on this. DJ fodder, perfect. If you want to do a harder set, you just flip it over and play the harder tracks. If you want a more trancey set, well, you play parts at least of the 15-minute version of Barbarella, the Secret Chamber of Dreams. And that is the track that I want to highlight here. I love the other ones as well, but the nearly 15-minute long Barbarella track here, it's absolutely fantastic. Transports you into different worlds, into a trance, you might say. So yeah, that's my first pick from Hard House Records, Barbarella and the Secret Chamber of Dreams. And if I do a follow-up to this one, a similar thing like listing 5 records, I will focus on some albums, and spoiler, I'm going to include the one and only album they released, Barbarella, The Art of Dance. It's an absolutely fantastic, timeless album, in my opinion. Yeah, but now let's move on to the second one from another giant of a label from Belgium, RNS Records. And they are responsible for releasing a lot of gems. Early Aphex Twin, Joey Beltram, of course, and DJ Hell. And they also had a subsidiary label called Apollo that was focusing more on the ambient side of stuff as well. But this was the dance label, In Order to Dance, or Order to Dance, as it says here. Yeah, so this is DJ Hell and my definition of house music. Yeah, I loved this track when it came out. It was very different from anything else I've heard. Sampled cellos, it sounds like, and some quirky beats and some quirky sounds. It was just like nothing I ever heard at that point. In the past years, I been aware that this is pure plagiarism. Yeah, the track, my definition of house music, is a basic rip-off of David Byrne's track Ava, and more specifically the mix of Ava called Less Space Mix Something. Not even a nod to David Byrne on this one. Well, for copyright reasons, of course. But here it says, written and produced by DJ Hell. That's it. But that track with David Byrne was released in 1991. This one was released in 1992, so it didn't spare any time to just pick up that remix, that David Byrne remix, and just basically just copy it straight off. There is basically no distinctions between these two at all. So that is not why I'm showcasing it here, because I was thoroughly disappointed when I learned about this being a blatant ripoff. No. The reason I'm highlighting this is because of the flip side of this one. It is a remix of said track by Resistance D. And Resistance D, a fantastic duo. They were basically the trance masters of the day, made absolutely fantastic stuff, very atmospheric. They always built up their tracks in a very atmospheric way, and then they let the banging drums loose, and there was mayhem on the dance floors. They had a very particular way of building their tracks, and I haven't heard anyone manage to replicate that successfully since then. Yeah, so that is the track that I want to highlight here. They made a remix of My Definition of House Music, which we now can say is basically a remix of the David Byrne track. Right, yeah. But what a great job they did with this one. Starting out with some elements from My Definition of House Music, or Ava, if you want, by David Byrne. And then they slowly build it in that atmospheric fashion. And then it all kicks off. And well, if you can sit still to this one, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's an absolute banger with some hypnotic synth lines in it and a banging beat. For my next record, we're going to go over to the US and visit one of the pioneers when it comes to hard-hitting techno, funky techno, even some jazz excursions here and there. But these are the early days of underground resistance. 1992, the Seawolf. And if you're not familiar with underground resistance, I urge you to go out and look up some more information about them. They have a fascinating story. They're more of a collective than a normal band or an outfit, really, originated by Mad Mike Banks. And we were always wondering back in the day, who is this Mad Mike Banks? They kept very anonymous, very political and militant in their approach and the way we looked at them, of course. So they've been likened with Public Enemy, the Public Enemy of techno, you might say. More or less the same approach to things. And when they used to perform live, for example, they were as cryptic as well, because they kept balaclavas on, so you couldn't really see who it was. But for them, their philosophy was you should listen to the music, you should feel things through the music, and not raise up your DJs or the artists like some god status. No, the music was the message here, just like with Public Enemy, of course. But you rarely get lyrics with underground resistance. It's the power of music that will enlighten you, basically, with this. But But like I said, more on Underground Resistance, please go and look them up. Otherwise, I'll spend an hour or so more on just Underground Resistance. But this is, like I said, the Seawolf from 1992 under World Power Alliance. And I'm not really sure, I've never been really sure if this was the label they used for this, for the series, because to my knowledge there were 3 releases under World Power Alliance, or if Underground Resistance was the label and this was the band name, if you know what I mean. I'm not really sure, but I think World Power Alliance was the label and this was Underground Resistance product. It doesn't say anywhere here who wrote this, and if we pull out the record, because the sleeve is not very exciting, it's just a plain white one, you can see that we have a bit of a blurb here for this particular one. So I'm going to read it here. Somewhere in the depths of our vast seas lurks the seaman's most feared nightmare, Seawolf. A German U-boat of destruction and mayhem for all who dare to cross its path. Underground Resistance warns you of the Seawolf. And that's all it says. Well, nearly all. Because this is a one-sided 12-inch single, and on the back we have a bunch of etchings here. I don't know how well it does come across here, all the etchings here on the back of it, but I will try to take some photos of this, so at least you get a sense of what it is. And I do believe that this etching was the same on every World Power Alliance release, really. It says World Power Alliance here in big letters, and you got some text here that I hardly can read, but it's something about war. Yeah, because the Seawolf, like we just learned from this blurb here, is a Nazi U-boat. So we also had another release on World Power Alliance called Belgian Resistance. So there's another tie-in to World War II. And then we had another one called Kamikaze. And everyone does reflect the themes as well. So this one, you really feel this is a ferocious U-boat just forcing its way through the seas. You really get that sense of ferocity and fear, perhaps. But it's absolutely a banger of a tune that they managed to put a theme to. And it's not easy when you're just using basically a 303 and a drum machine. So you got that acid line and the drum machine, but they still evokes that feeling of being underwater in a U-boat, the sense of a sonar and all of that. And I also want to point out another thing, and that is the grooves of this one. And once again, the camera doesn't do it justice, so I'll try to take a photo of this. I've never seen anything like this. It's so dense and so odd looking for being grooves on a vinyl record. But that just goes to show, right, what a magnificent track this one is, filled with bass frequencies, and it's a wonder that the stylus doesn't break in half when you play this one. Did you get the message? Yeah. If you're curious, I urge you once again, go and seek out the other World Power Alliance releases as well. They are equally magnificent. And something I forgot to say before is that It's not just Mad Mike Banks, this who is that famous name behind Underground Resistance. In those early days, we also had Robert Hood and Jeff Mills included in that collective that we called Underground Resistance. And I do believe that Jeff Mills was still around for this one, but I'm not really sure. I'm just guessing once again, because we don't get anything like credits on this one. But yeah, if you're a fan of Jeff Mills or early techno and hard-hitting techno, once again, I couldn't praise this enough. And when I first picked out these records, I really want them to be from different labels. I nearly succeeded in that, because the next one here is Red Planet, once again from Underground Resistance. So it's a subsidiary of Underground Resistance label, but it's called Red Planet. I think I picked up until Red Planet 9, and then I remember, I think Red Planet 10 was a compilation, a CD compilation, and I already had all of those tracks up until that point. And then I lost track a bit of them, which is sad, because I would like to pick up the rest of them. I think they made up until 15 or 17 or something like that. But yeah, I have the first 9 at least. Yeah, so this is Red Planet 3, and they usually came in this red only red cover, and sometimes they came in white covers, but they all had one thing in common, and that is this wonderful label of Mars, the Red Planet. And this specific one is probably by Mike Banks as well, but I'm not sure, really. There has been other names floating around who is really responsible for Red Planet. Could be the whole collective, for what I know. The only name that we actually get here on this Red Planet 3 is it's mixed by Eddie Flashin' Folks, another legend in both house and techno from the Detroit side of things. Yeah. So this is Sex in Zero Gravity, which is the main track and the one that I want to talk about. But you also get 2 other superb tracks on this one. One is called Ultraviolet Images and 808 Surface Temperature Mix. Yeah, 2 great ones. But Sex in Zero Gravity, the main track, it is such a funky track. You could describe it as electro funk, really. It is fantastic stuff that starts to build with the simple organ chords, and then it just builds and builds from there with different sound structures, and becomes this monster of an electro track. And I couldn't get enough of this when I picked it up. Still can't. It's one that's been out of my crates actually for the longest time, because from now and then I'll just put it on and just drift away or dance away. It's absolutely infectious track. That was a hard word to say. Infectious track, it really is. No matter who did it, it is from Red Planet, and it's called Sex in Zero Gravity, and you just have to hear it to feel it and believe it. So for the last record, we're gonna finish off where we started with the more atmospheric, trancier tracks, perhaps. And we have to go to Fax Records for that one. Yeah, this is as basic as it goes. This is actually how I picked it up back in the day. We are now in 1993, just like with the other record, if I didn't mention it, Red Planet from 1993, and this one from Fax Records. This is Limelight, and we got 3 different tracks from this one. So we got, it's all about nature here. So the first one is called Rerum Natura Pluris Costare Mix, and on the same side we also get Nature Vita Sommunium Brevi Mix. But it's not those 2 tracks that I really want to talk about. All 3 tracks on this are the same track in different mixes, but it's the one on the flip side of this called Sorti Destinatus. So that is the ambient version of this track from Limelight. And before I go into explaining anything about that, if you haven't heard about Fax Records before, that is the brainchild of Pete Namlook. May he rest in peace. He left this earth way too early, but he managed to output a lot of different records here on his imprint Fax. It was Fax and then the number, which is +49 -69450464. I think that is the label name actually, but we always call them Fax Records. And whenever I came across a Fax record, I picked them up. Sometimes they were just in a blank white sleeve. Sometimes they were just like this, an inner sleeve, and as you can see, the price sticker is still there. This is how I bought it. I kept it this way. And the good thing about all these Fax records is that they usually had 1 or 2 tracks that were more hard hitting, sometimes a bit more hard trance. Is that a thing? Yeah, I think it is. And some of them were straight up acid techno. And then on the flip side, you always got something more mellow, more ambient take on the track. So I love this stuff. And Pete Namlook was behind most of these, I want to say. In this case, it's Pete Namlook and DJ Brainwave who's responsible for the name Limelight. And this was, of course, the 3rd release for Limelight. So they were always numbered like this. So I had a number here. You had to flip it over to see which artist we were talking about. And the color indications here had something to do with the kind of music as well. So yellow, I would assume, with more trancier stuff. And then we had, I think there was a green label for the more hard-hitting stuff. Yeah, I have to look it up. But I remember back in the day, that's what I heard about these ones, that you could see by the color coding what kind of music you're getting. But no matter, I picked up any Fax release that I could come across. So now, back to Sorti Destinatus, the great track. It's nearly 6 minutes long, so it's not a huge one, but it feels like you've been on quite a journey after listening to this one. It weaves the different sounds into each other in a way that you feel you've been part of something much, much bigger. You've been traveling in outer space, or in this case, into nature, and all of a sudden you understand how everything is connected and all of that. And no, I'm not on drugs when I'm listening to that one, but hey, that's the power of music, right? It could put you in a trance, it can transport you into different worlds and all that, and that's exactly what this one does, and that's why it's on this top 5 list here. This is Limelight and Sorti Destinatus. Yeah, those were the 5 picks that I made from my vast collection of, we'll call it electronic dance music records from my crates. And there will be more of that if you're interested. Like I said, I can do one on my favorite albums. It's not necessarily from 1992 to 1993. It could be from any time in the 1990s. But yeah, there's a lot to pick from, and I'm very, very passionate about these records. So please let me know down in the comments. And by all means, if you have your own top 5, I want to see that as well. From the years 1992 to 1993, what are some of your favorite techno /acid /house records from that time period? I want to hear all about it. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for sticking with me for yet another Friday night here on my channel. I will be back next Friday, and I have a feeling I'm gonna go back to the 1980s by then, but you'll just have to tune in to find out. Yeah. But until then, you all take care of yourself, you keep cool, and you keep playing that music. Promise me. Yeah. But have a wonderful weekend, and I'm gonna, of course, bid you, as usual, a very warm Swedish adieu to you all.
The movie rolls on, there ain't no more love scenes, the romance is gone. It's a one-man show, it's moving real slow, but it's picking up speed as I'm turning the key. I'm coming up, coming up, coming up.